is on, you need to mute your mic.
Yeah.
Okay guys, the link to the YouTube is in the chat. So check out the link and see if everything is working fine. Then we can continue with the class. So is it working on YouTube? Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
I said, is it working on YouTube? And please, everybody, can you please turn on your videos now, please? Yeah, thank you. Each and every one of us, please, let's turn on our videos. So, yeah, so I think what we're looking at is the desktop design. So this is what we are looking at. So we've gone a great deal into it the other day. So let's just keep it aside for now. So turn on your video wherever you are, whatever you do. Yeah, turn on your video. Thank you. So at this point, I said I was going to go over overflowing content, and I'll just start out by dealing with what we have here. So okay, I was actually playing around this the other day, so let me just see. So let's start with this live server, and I'll open Brave browser, which is the famous browser for this class. So just open the Brave browser, and then let's start with the Brave browser. So this is the Brave browser. So for the last class, this is what we were able to do. We're able to do all of this for me and during the last class. Yeah. So we're able to do all of this. So this was where we stopped during the last class, right? So it's pretty much like what we want to achieve, but we are not quite there because we are not done with all of the sections. So let me just reduce this. So one of the challenges I'm talking about that we have now at the moment is this particular challenge here. And let me just open. Are you guys seeing my screen now? Okay, you can. Yeah, you definitely can. So I will inspect now.
Yes, are you recording?
Yes, I've started recording. It's streaming to YouTube. I told you guys to check the YouTube link to see if it's working.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So just check the YouTube link. Okay. So I'm just going to pick this one. And if you can see here, we have this ugly horizontal scroll bar on our page. Can you see that? You can see that we can actually scroll to the side. And that leads us to this point of, CSS, where you talk about, I don't know if from writing code, you must have seen a property like this at one point or the other, but you are not quite sure what it does. And that is this property. I think we already used it, Overflow. Yeah, we already used it once, but I'm sure most of you don't know why we used it. So this Overflow is actually talking about the fact that at any point in time, if the child of an HTML element, is bigger than the weight of the parent, it tends to spill over. So Overflow actually now instructs CSS on what to do when the child is bigger than the parent. Do you want to scroll to the side, just like we have in our own project now? Do you want to scroll to the side to be able to see the entire, to see what's left? Because if you inspect here, the reason why we're having this overflowing content is because our image is spilling over to the left hand side. Can you see that? Our image is like, we used a property on our image and it is the left property. We said left should be what, 25%. So it is pushing it beyond the viewport width. Does that make sense? And the viewport width is from this point here to this point here is the viewport width. So it is pushing it beyond the viewport width. And I think for me to just get that nice highlight on the, for you to be able to see my mouse in a very in a clearer way, let me just quickly do a recording with Loom. So when I activate recording with Loom, you should be able to see my mouse highlighted on the screen at every point in time. So I think that's something nice we should have. So let me just go. We are not going to be using the Loom recording. I'm just using that because of this this mouse highlighting with this yellow what's it called, border on the page. So that's why we are using Loom. So we are not going to be using the Loom recording for anything whatsoever. So you can see that we have from here to here is the original viewport width. But now this image is going beyond the viewport width because we are telling it to go to the left by 25%, or is it, how many percent is that? So it's going to the left by a certain percentage. So it's going, spanning across here like this. From here to here is the spillover. So the distance between here and here is actually the overflow on the body tag itself, which is the parent of everything. So now how do we fix that? The way we fix that is by setting a property on the body. And that property we want to set on the body tag is overflow. So not overflow. I want to set overflow to hidden. Yeah. So when we set overflow, sorry. Then as well as, I think Loom is actually creating a problem for us. I think let me just get rid of it, please. So you can see we have this horizontal scroll bar. So what you normally do is, on your body tag, you want to set your overflow to hidden, or any parent tag that has a child that is overflowing. So now the parent that has a child that is overflowing here is this the parent of this div here. So this is the parent, this is the actual width of the parent, but the body is actually in the image inside of it is taking more width than the parent. This is the parent. And let me just set a background for the parent so you can see what I'm talking about. Inside here, background of red. So this is the parent. Can you guys see that, please? So this is the parent. You can see that the image is bigger than the parent. Hello? Are we together? Hello? Please turn on your video, everyone, before we proceed.
Yes, sir, we are here.
Yeah, turn on your video. Each and every one of you turn on your videos. If not, we won't go forward.
Yes, sir.
And then I think there's an extra. Where is that? Do I have a twin that is speaking on my behalf? Where is that voice coming from? Somebody on YouTube. Are you guys watching from YouTube? If you are watching from YouTube, please just, the YouTube is just to confirm that we are together. Okay, no wonder why you've not been responding quickly. So let's stay on Google Meet for our interaction in the class. YouTube has delay.
Just use
Who is that? I'm not getting what is going on. Okay, so at this point, you can see now that our image is still, functional, but it doesn't overflow anymore. And this is because we set the overflow of the parent now to hidden. So it doesn't allow the spillover of the child, which is the image, to show anymore. Does that make sense? If I remove this overflow, then we'll be able to scroll to the left of our page. What's that? And let me remove it on the body also. So we are able to scroll to the left of our page because we are not hiding the overflow. So basically, in a nutshell, let me just be precise and concise with this. Overflow is a property that allows a CSS parent element to decide if the child element's width should be hidden, should it elapse the width apportioned by the parent element. And what I mean by that is the fact that you have this illustration wrapper, which is the parent of the image, this image. But now we are putting a property on this image that makes it want to enter inside of the wall. So instead of entering the wall, what it does is it takes an extra space to the right of our page. And you can see that that really makes the top of our page ugly because one element is overflowing the viewport width. Does that make sense? Hello? Hello.
Sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
It makes sense. Oh yeah, if it makes sense to you, explain what I just said.
It does not make sense.
Okay, doesn't
I
make
want to
sense.
try man. Okay.
Okay, for instance, you understand the relationship between a parent and a child in the hierarchy of HTML elements. Now, when you have an element, and let me just create a fresh HTML page to let you guys understand what I'm talking about. So I'll create a fresh HTML page here inside of this same document. I will delete it in a moment, but let me just create a fresh HTML page, and I'll just call it overflow.html just to show you what I mean, that this is for the overflow, whatever it is. So I'll put it give it a a body. Okay, it doesn't really matter because we won't be needing the file. So I'll do a div inside of this, and the div is going to have okay, it's going to have an image inside of it, and the image is going to be coming from where all the images have been coming from. So I will just do the slash images, and I'm going to do slash pattern intro mobile blah, blah, blah. I think let me do one of these, any of these. So let me do this illustration desktop SVG. Okay, so let me do that. So now let's just save this and try to open this as well. I'll copy the path. I won't be using live server. I'll just copy the path, and let's go to our what's it called? Let's go here and open that particular page. Okay, we can't see because I think I need to set a background color. Let me just use the style attribute to set the background color. So you can see now, if I inspect this, and let me give the body a background color so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, I think our image is now coming for it. Let me towards the image. Okay, I think let me just get an image from online so that we can just deal with this. I just need an image. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Let's pick the Bible image. I'll just copy this image address and close this for that sake. I already have what I need. So let's paste it here. And I'll paste it here and save it. Yeah. So when I reload here, so we have this big Bible image. But what I want to do now is, you remember that at this point we set a width for this element here, and we set a width of 35%. Then we set a width of 45% for this one. Can you guys remember that? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, once more, everyone turn on your video. Why do you have to keep saying this every time? I think the reason why you guys do turn off your video is because at intervals you like to do other things. So when you don't want to be caught, you just turn off your video, do what you want to do, then you come back again. You wait for me to say it again. And if I don't say it, you just play along and see everything is fine. But turn on your video, yeah. So I will not be distracted. Yeah. So remember that I said on this div we set a width of how many percent? 35%, if you remember very well. Then we set a width of 45% on this one. So that means the div, the parent of this one, is as wide as 35% of the viewport width, while the parent of this image is 45% of the viewport width. So what now happens if the image becomes bigger in width than the parent that contains it, which is what we are having, what we'll have now, because I'm going to set a width on this div that contains this image. So I'm going to set a width for it, and I'll say the width is let the width be 50. Let's just 500 pixels, which is what I'll do. And the height as well is going to be 500 pixels. So I'll reload this. And when I reload it, you don't see much of a change. You don't see much of a difference. But you will observe that when I inspect my element, you can see that my div now is, my div is just 500 pixels of the viewport width. But my image is overflowing out of the parent. Does that make sense to you? Hello?
Yes, sir.
My image, this is the parent. You can see that the image is bigger than the parent. So that being bigger than the parent is that it is overflowing the parent. It is overflowing. You go to church now, when you talk about an overflow, you know what it means? Running over, overflow. When they say overflowing blessing, that kind of thing. That is more than you can contain. So to overflow the parent means it is more than the parent can contain. Does that make sense? So now how do you fix that? So watch the parent div now. When I come, you can see we have a background color, we have a width, we have a height. So if I set an overflow on the parent and I set the overflow to hidden, you see what happens? It automatically hides the rest of the image. So it's more like it cuts it off. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So that is the idea of overflowing, but we have that same situation here. Where's that? On our project here. And the situation we're having is that this image is overflowing and now it is causing a horizontal scrolling on our page. That means you can scroll to the right hand side or to the left hand side, and it is not reasonable for you to have that on a web page. So we have to be able to take care of this overflowing content. So one of the primary things you do to take care of overflowing content on your web page is by first on your body tag setting overflow to hidden. The overflow X, you set it to hidden. On the overflow Y, you don't want to set it to hidden, because if you set overflow Y to hidden, that means you can't scroll horizontally vertically neither. So let's just quickly go over that. So I think at this point I will just delete this particular one. I think the point is clear now, right? Or should I still explain that again? Is it clear?
So please explain again. This I think Trion's mic is making noise and it's making some things you're saying unclear. Stop.
Okay.
Please, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I can hear you. Okay, so that's fine.
Okay, I was actually saying if you can repeat it again so that at least I could jump them.
Okay, now, just so that we're on the same page, what is the height? Sorry, what is the width of our div here? This div. Okay, let me start from here. Which element is the parent of our image element? From looking at the developer console here, which element is the parent of the image?
It's the div.
Okay, the div is the parent, and Peter, please pay attention to this. The div is the parent of the image, and now we have specified a width on the div, and that width of the div is 500 pixels high and 500 pixels wide, and then 500 pixels high. But without this overflow, you can see that our image will spill out of that dimension that we've given to the parent. When I inspect the parent element like this, you can see that it is the div, which is this parent. You can see that the dimension is the same, but the image does not obey that dimension. It spills out of it. Does that make sense? So for us to be able to fix the child spilling out of the parent, what we do is set a property on the parent to handle the overflowing children, if there will be any children that will try to overflow eventually. And the way we do that is to set overflow to hidden. So you can see that setting overflow to hidden, it hides any part of the image that doesn't fit into the parent. Does that make sense? And this is not just applicable to images, it is also applicable to, any kind of elements. Any element can overflow at any point in time. So what you will do basically is to set overflow to either scroll or hidden. So if I set overflow here to scroll, see what happens when I come here. I'll be able to scroll the entire, I'll be able to scroll the div to be able to see the entire image. Does that make sense? Are you getting it? But the idea of the overflow is to ensure that it doesn't spill out of the parent. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Don't like it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense. So now, instead of just overflow, we have overflow X and overflow Y. So we have overflow, we have overflow, wow.
Yes, I'm listening.
We have overflow X. We can set overflow X to hidden. Then we set overflow Y to scroll. That means the overflow across the horizontal axis, the X axis. This is the X axis pertaining to your graph in mathematics or physics. So we have X and Y. X is horizontal, Y is vertical. So overflow across the horizontal axis is hidden. That is, we can't even scroll through it. But for the vertical axis, we can scroll across the vertical axis by setting this overflow X and Y. You get it? So one of the standard things you want to do while starting any project at all is to go to your body tag first of all and set overflow X to hidden. You don't want at any point you don't want your user to at any point be able to scroll horizontally on your page. Does that make sense? You can see now that actually, that fixed that issue for us. You can see that I'm actually trying to scroll now,
Yes.
but it's not scrolling horizontally anymore. But remember, initially this image is causing a scroll horizontally. Do you remember that? And we're having this white space beside our header when we scroll horizontally. Does that make sense now? So what will happen? What do you think will happen if I set overflow Y on our body? If I set overflow Y to hidden, what do you think is going to happen? So what do you think is going to happen? Oluwa, where are my people? Jesus Christ of Nazareth. If you don't know the answer, say you don't know, but let me just get feedback. You don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Don't know.
What is going to happen when you set overflow Y to hidden means you will be causing a bigger problem for yourself. That is your inability to scroll vertically as well. You won't be able to scroll down. It's going to cut off anything that passes the viewport height. So which is just happening now. I'm trying to scroll now, I can't scroll. And if you are coding from your end, they also set what I have said. You see that you'll not be able to scroll down. Neither will you be able to scroll to the left as well, to the right as well, because I set overflow both left and right to hidden. So what you normally do for overflow is to set it to scroll. But by default, it will be set to scroll for the body tag. So you don't really have to worry about that. So now I can scroll up and down. But scrolling to the right is not possible again. And I don't know why it's so hard to pronounce scrolling this night. But scrolling to the right will not be possible anymore. Okay. So does that make sense now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me just remove overscroll Y, but we sure need the overscroll X because of that image that is spilling over if we don't set it. And just to remind you of what it looks like if we don't set it, I'll just comment it out and come here. You can see that doing that, I'll be able to scroll here because of this image. And I'm sure that many of you must have come across this before. If you've been doing maybe some independent projects on your own, you must have come across the fact that maybe you don't try to scroll, because if I don't try to scroll horizontally, I won't know that something like that is actually a problem. But I can actually tell, the moment I land on the page and I can see a horizontal scroll bar, I know that something is wrong. I shouldn't be able to see a horizontal scroll bar, which is what is at the bottom of my page. I shouldn't be able to see this horizontal scroll bar at the bottom. It looks very ugly and it should never exist on your document, except if you really need to, put horizontal scroll bars on your page. So let's just return that. And then let me delete this, my overflow HTML. Okay, let me keep overflow HTML because there's something else I said I was going to explain. And that's the idea of box sizing. So in a nutshell, I'll just come back here and I'll refresh the page. No. So let me go back to our overflow.html and let me just get rid of the image. Yeah. So what I want to talk about is the idea of border boxes. So we have this element now inside of our body tag, and let me just put it at the center of the page, and let me put my developer console on the right so that you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the box, the div. What is the dimension of the div? 500 pixels by 500 pixels. That means it is 500 pixels high and 500 pixels wide. You get, and you can see that from this Chrome this developer to what's it called, the box model diagram that tells you the size of your image, the padding, and what have you. So one of the standard things you want to do is to do something like, and I'm sure you must have seen it, box sizing. You want to set box sizing to border box, and there's there's a couple of things you actually get here, and that's the fact that, okay, just to show you what I mean. So you can see that here, the moment I added a padding of 50 pixels, my height reduced, the main content height reduced by 100 pixels. Can anybody explain why that is happening? Hello? Hello?
Actually, I feel, can I say something?
Okay.
Hello? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I'm with you. You can say what you want to say, please.
Actually, I feel like as soon as I did the padding, the pixels decreased by 100.
Yeah, for the top and bottom, because we added a padding of 50 pixels. Remember, our initial dimension is 500 by 500. So what this box sizing border box does is to instruct CSS that your height and width should be calculated, putting this in with respect to your padding. You get that? It should include your padding and border in the calculation of your height and width. So whenever you set a padding, it's going to minus the dimension of the padding on both sides, both vertically and horizontally, and subtract that from your actual width, then add it back for your actual content height and width. Does that make sense? I know that's a lot of words, but does it make sense? Just by looking at it. If I remove the padding, our content goes back to 500 pixels high and 500 pixels wide. But when I restore the padding, it just goes back to, it gets reduced to 400 pixels. And remember, I said the innermost part is the actual content. The padding is like the compound, the border is the fence, and then the margin is the neighborhood, depending on which neighborhood you live in. So that's the idea here. So the reason why this is working this way is because I said box sizing should be a border box. So if I don't do border box, it is going to add the padding independent of the height and width I said. It won't put the height and width into perspective while it is calculating your padding, for the content. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You might need to use this a lot when you're working with something like forms, input, and all those stuff. So just have this at the back of your mind. And I'll just bring out what's it called? I'm going to bring a slide from the slides I prepared initially. So I'm just going to go to Canva quickly and bring a slide to explain the idea of nominal and actual width for CSS content or HTML elements. Because at this point, I strongly believe you should be able to see an imaginary, what's it called? An imaginary box around all the elements on the page when you are thinking about padding, border, and margin, and so on. You should be able to think about it as though there's an imaginary line at every point in time around your element. So let me just come here. So I'm going to do this. So I just want to get back to, okay. So here, oh Jesus. So let me just reduce the, bring this out of the full screen mode and then bring this down here. So there's something such as nominal, nominal and actual width. Nominal width is just the width without putting your, margin and padding into perspective. So you remember what we talked about this now. We have the margin padding, which is your entire box model. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, sir.
So you remember what we said about the box model in CSS and HTML. We said I said the box model actually suggests the fact that everything is inside an imaginary box. You get. So we have an idea of nominal width. And nominal width is, should we include the margin, padding, and border as a part of our elements, width and height? Or should we just calculate the actual content width and height as our nominal width and width, as our width, as our width and height? So the nominal width is actually you calculating, the width and height without factoring the differences between margin, padding, and all of those stuffs. But your actual content width, is putting all of those things into consideration. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you can refer to your elements width as from the top here to the bottom, then as from the edge here to the other end here, and this is your actual content. So which width are you actually going to refer to as your real width in this context? Is it the width from here to here, or the width from the start of your content to the end of your content? I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. Hello.
Yes, sir.
So what do we refer to our actual width as?
H1.
H1. Okay, okay. Okay, give me a moment, guys. I think someone is trying to get into the class, but it said the link is not working. Let me just try and check it. Okay, I think someone wants to say something. I'm trying to get someone who's trying to connect to the class.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, please can you come again with the question?
So I said, what do we refer to what will be the actual height of our content? Is it the height from the edge of the box model from the top to the edge of the box model at the bottom? Or is it just going to be the height of our content?
Which content? Is it the H1?
Hello?
Do you mean the content? Is it the H1?
This is just a sample here. The H1 is the content. Yes, obviously the H1 is the content. This is the content. This is the padding. This is the border. This is the margin. So that's what I mean. So I'm listening.
I think the size of the content is the size of the H1.
Of the what?
Since the padding, it's to give it more space within the content and to give it more space around the content, right? And the border is just like a line, border line. Let me just say the H1. H1, the size of the H1, the height of the H1 is the height.
The size of what? Hello? Hello?
I mean the size of the H1 is the size of the content.
The size of what?
Size of H1 is the height of the content.
The size of the H1 is the height of the content.
And I'm trying to use my earpiece back because I can't hear you.
You said the size of the H1 is the size of the content. Is that what you're saying? Hello? Hello?
Continue. I'm at the road. I'm just trying to listen while driving and trying to look. What I'm
Okay.
just saying here is that you asked that what's the height of this this box? What's going to be the height of the box? And I said the height of the H1 should be the height of the box. I think that's my own answer towards that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So, you know, by default, before we did all of this, and let me just get rid of this. Let's go back into this thing properly. So let me get rid of this. So before we added, you know, this box sizing border box, what we are telling box sizing border box to use to calculate the width and height from the border. Does that make sense? Eh? Hello? Hello? Jesus. Are you guys with me at all? I need you to understand. Okay. So when you use box sizing border box, what you are telling CSS to do is that to calculate the height of the element, excluding the value of the padding, the border, and then you know, the margin, both to the left, right, and center. You get the point? So if I change it to box sizing content box, that is, it is going to just calculate the width and height using the content box, which is the innermost box, and the height padding will be an addition to the height of the elements. Does that make sense? Then if I also have a border, let's say border of, let's say 10 pixels solid black. If I have something like this, all of this will be calculated without being included in the width and height that I set for the content. It is excluding all of these other sizes and dimensions from the element. It is not including them. But if I hover on top of this element now, you can see the width and height on this this white pop-up that comes on. You can see that the width and height now is what? 620 by 620. Does that make sense? That means
Yes, sir.
the actual height, the total height and width on the element is including both the border, the padding, the margin, is adding their sizes independently and calculating the total width and height by including those the size of the border and padding. So that is what is happening. But if I change my box sizing, I listen to me, to border box, it will calculate my width and height, factoring into consideration my padding and border. So you can see that the total height and width now is still what I set originally. Does that make sense? It is not adding any extra for me, because the content, you understand, the width and height I set on the content is now absolute to the entire content. So if there will be any margin and padding, it will be added. It will be added to make sure that the total sum will be equal to what I already set on my own style attribute. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Does it make sense? Honestly, you understand that? Triumph. Does it?
Yes, it does. But I still need to know how I can understand it better. Sure. It does.
Okay. So when we do border box, we are saying, okay, the width and height should be taken starting from the border. So if we set a height of 500 pixels, the border's width and height will be subtracted from that 500. So that at the end of everything, the total height and the total width will be equal to what we said originally. But if we don't do box sizing border box, the default is always content box. It is going to, you know, add whatever border we specify the value to the height and the width. Add whatever value we specify for the padding to the height and the width. It is going to add them independently. Does that make sense? So even if okay, so that's okay. So let's just go on to those are the two things I said I was going to explain, because I know it's going to be very important at this point. So that when you set a height of 400 pixels for this, you should know what you are doing really. If your width and margin and padding should be included, or if it should be excluded from the width and height you've set. Because if you don't do that, if you set a width and height of 400 pixels and you really want your element to be 400 pixels, you don't want it to be higher than that. If you don't do box sizing border box, by the time you add a padding of 50 pixels up here, your height will no longer be 400 pixels. 50 pixels would have been added to it on all dimensions where that padding is applicable. If it is to the top and bottom, that means your height will no longer be 400 pixels, it's now going to be 500 pixels. But if you do box sizing border box, it is going to remove the width of your padding, both on the top and the bottom, from the original element width and height, so that eventually at the end of the day your total width and height is going to be your padding plus the border plus the content height. So that's what it is going to be. And at the end of the day, your width is going to be the width of the padding plus the width of the border plus the width of the content. That will give you a total width, and that's to the left and the right. So that's fine. So let's just go on to something else. So I think we are going to start by cleaning up this particular area today, because I think we have a little work to do here. And let me just bring this up here, and let me try and minimize this one so that it sits side by side here. So what are the things we need to really work on? The things we need to work on, because when we go to a full screen mode, the space between here and here is so much. So what you can do in this regard, just do inspect the element. Let's return our console back to the bottom, our developer tool back to the bottom. So when you inspect, put your cursor over this element here, and then there's a possibility in CSS to actually set a negative margin. So we are going to set a margin bottom to a negative value of 70 pixels, and that will actually bring it as close as we need it to be. Because if you look at the original image, this circle at the top here is almost beside the future, if that makes sense for you. But before we added the negative margin, it's like the image is just at the top. Yeah, it's not beside it like it should be. So just add a margin bottom of 70 pixels, but I think probably 60 pixels should be good as well. So 60 pixels is fine. Yeah. So I think that's okay. So that makes sense. So let's just, since we've done this now, let's go on to go to the next section of the page, and that is this section. That is this cell phone section. So looking at the cell phone section, let's go back. Let me delete this overflow.html. We don't need it anymore. So looking at okay, I think we're done with this part. So for the what's it called, the section header, which is this, I just want to set a, let me just target the h2, or just target this element. So let me just give it a class, and you can add more than one class name actually, in case you don't know by now. Negative margin. So I'm going to use that to set the negative margin to the element itself. So Control C, let me save, and then let me go here, section header. Let's look for section header, and I'm sure you guys are still in sync with this whole thing. So let me set this, and I think we already have this. So let me do this. There's this kind of selector that you can do like this, and what this selector means is that you are checking for the element that has these two classes on it together at the same time. So if there's any other element that just has section header but that doesn't have negative margin on it, it won't apply this style. But this is only for elements that have section header class and also the negative margin class. Okay guys, so I think that's pretty much it. So it looks more like what we want it to look like now. So let's go down here to this section here. So the standard thing we've been doing, and if I've not lost my thought process for this talk, so the next thing we'll do is state of the art. So that's the new section we are creating. So we do a new HTML comment. We do state of the art. So we do section state. Let's just call it the section state of. So here we are going to do something, and what we are going to do basically is we are going to be what's it called? We are going to be creating this section from by first putting in a major. The section is already the div. Then we're putting another div inside of it, which is going to be more like the pattern, because it's similar to what we did here, so that we can have this pattern. This pattern at the bottom of the image, because this screenshot is different from this image. This image is in the background of this element with the border radius, which is the container for the both the image and then this other guy here. So let's see how we can do that now. Seems like someone's mic is also talking. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to follow this basically out. So inside of this state of the art is going to be the main, what's it called? The main box here. That's going to be the main box. So inside of that box, we are just going to do that border radius, that box, the box that will have this pattern here. So we're going to do div dot what's it called? Maybe circle bg. Yeah. So we give that one the background of this pattern. Yeah. And then as well as okay, I think the state of will be the one with this dark background here. So we can do that. So inside of the circle bg, we are going to put this image and we are going to put this text. So first of all, we are going to do div dot screenshot, which is the image, and I'll put an img tag inside of it. So let's just get the image, and what we want is the mobile editor mobile. So I think that's this one. So let's just call it screenshot. And are you guys following me now?
Yes, sir.
So we say circle pattern. So here we're going to say let's just give it the comments. And I hope the comments are helpful, or we don't need them. We should just get rid of the comments. Or are they helpful?
They're helpful.
Okay. So circle bg, then we can do mobile screenshot. If that's how they spell screenshot today. So then we'll do the next one. Next one is going to be the state of the art text here. So what we're going to do, let's just have inside of this something very basic. Let's do an h3, and the h3 is going to be state of the art infrastructure. What's happening? I to respond now. Is it true that the link from the group is working? It's actually working now. Is the link not working?
Is it the Google Meet link
Yeah.
on WhatsApp?
Yes.
It's working.
I don't know. Somebody keeps complaining that the thing is not working, but I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I don't get my eyes off this particular, what's it called? This particular Google Meet screen, because even when the video is on, I can see that some people are still distracted when the video is on. How much more when the video is off? Okay. So, but so far, everybody's following. So we have this now. We have this. We have this. What's it called? State of the art infrastructure. Is not. So we have this now. The image, state of the art on the at the bottom of it, and we have not really added the paragraph. Kind of just rushed into that. And just like we did before, I'm not going to be typing all of the text in a paragraph. So we just generate a dummy text with lorem. Yeah, lorem, Lipson. Then I'll just get rid of a couple of things to ensure that we have, almost the same amount of characters. So let's cut it up to here. So we have, I think that looks very small, but no problem. When we just start going over the style, so then we'll know if it's small or it is more just enough for what we are trying to do. So let me, okay. Okay. So, yeah, what's next? I'm trying to ensure that I can still see you guys. Whatever I do, I need to be seeing everybody so that I don't get scammed. Okay, so that's that about that section. So now we have to go on. So you can understand now that we have the div, which doesn't look exactly like what we need. Okay, wait, that's not actually the image we need. This is not the image we need, right? So I think the image we need is something else entirely, and nobody has actually said that. Are you sure you guys are following me? So mobile, okay, illustration fonts. I think this is the image we need, not that one I took it for hand. You guys have been looking at it. You didn't even tell me that that's not the image. So this is the image you are looking
So
at.
mine did not even come up.
Your own? What didn't come up?
Mine did not even.
What's that?
The image I am using, my page is not reflecting it.
Okay, let me also ask. How many of you
How
many of you are coding along now?
I am.
How many? If you are, just type it on the chat, in the chat section. Let me know. I am. How many people? Just one person has responded. So I think it's always very good if you code along, but if you haven't started now, don't bother. I think it's already too late to do that now. So, but if you've started before, then it's actually absolutely fine. So what we'll do first now is we are going to have to set do a couple of things to this element so that it can look like what we want it to look like. So one of the first things to do is let's just target the actual parent. So that is this state of element. That is the section itself. Yes, so the actual parent, we are going to just do this. State of. So we want to give state of. How many children does status have? Let's just collapse all of these things so that we can't, okay, it has just one child. Yes. So after the one child, okay, I'm trying to see how we'll sort in that PG for it. So I want us to use the same approach we use for this section. So state of has one child, and that is the circle BG. So let's just set a background color for it, and the background color is going to be it's going to be a linear gradient. Okay, so I'm just going to let me see if this suggestion is no, that's not what I need. So what I need is actually that style guide and the HSL 237. I think we have that HSL 237 from style guide. But I think we need this very dark saturated one. Then we need this dark gray 237 1720. So we need this one. We are going from here, from this place. We are going from this point, this light color, to the darker one, to this darker one. Please, you can mute your mics. Just which one is lighter? Seems like the one that's supposed to be light is dark, and the one that's supposed to be dark is dark. Okay, I think it's fine. So let's take a look at it now. So obviously, and I'm sure I'm doing linear gradient correctly. So linear gradient 90 degrees. Yeah, that's it. Oh, sorry, not background color. Remember, linear gradient has to be background image, not color.
Background image.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we have the gradient going from the left to the right. So now what we need to do now is just do a couple of things. So, but for now, let's focus on our image. When we focus on our image, we are going to just sort out all of that in a bit. But I want us to do a couple of things for our this state of wrapper other than the gradient. I want us to add a display of flex so that the child, which is that circle BG element, will just be directly inside of it. And then I want us to add a position of relative because we'll be needing that. And I'll talk about position relative and absolute in a bit. So I will do position relative, and then I'll do okay. I thought somebody's sending something, so somebody actually just position of relative, yeah. Then I'm going to do something else, and I'll talk about position relative in a bit and absolute because we've used it a couple of times. So I'll use position relative, and then I'll do what's it called? I'll just do a margin for now. I'll do a margin of margin bottom of 60 pixels, just like for the elements that will come after it. So let's leave that for now, and let's target this our what's it called? The circle BG. So targeting the circle BG now, we are going to kind of just, and one of the things I'm thinking is instead of putting this circle BG inside of this to make it cover everything, and let's just experiment with it and see what that will look like. So circle BG, and then the background image we want to use is going to be URL, and then we are going to be targeting our file system images, and then what we are looking for is which image is that? I think that should be this image. Sorry, trying to find the actual image we need to use for that. Trying to find out the image for it. Sorry. Okay, so I think the image we need to use is this image here. So it's the pattern circles beach, I guess. Images. Pattern circle beach. Beach pattern circles here. So that's this. So let's check. Let's just check it out. Okay, so that's this. Yeah. So, and I think okay, let's just take a look at that. So what we need to do now is just to put a width of 100% here so that it can cover the entire space. Okay, now it is repeating. We don't want it to repeat. So remember what we do when we don't want backgrounds to repeat. What do we do? Let me disable this guy. What would we do?
Background repeats, null repeats.
So let's take a look at what to do. So okay, so we just have one of it. Then we might still need to work on the positioning of the background eventually. So now at the moment, let's just work on what's it called? Let's just do some padding and margin. And first of all, I think we should really fix this cell phone image. We should fix the width so that it doesn't spiral out of control. So it's currently inside of this div. So this div is screenshot. Let's just fix that so that the image is as small as we need it to be, so that before we can go start doing other things. So the screenshot, let's give it a width just like we did with the other guy, 35% of the entire width. Then we want to what else do we need to do? Okay, once you target the image inside of it, the screenshot, img, which is the image inside of it. I want to give that one a width of what's it called? I want to give it a width of 100% of that 35%. So let's see what that looks like now. Okay, let's see if that's actually been targeted. Okay, 35% here of screenshot. So this is 35% of the screenshot. So yeah, now what we need to do is, I think we just need to get the image, and then you put a positioning of absolute on this particular element here. So to do that, I think just hold. Okay, so let's take a look at our element again. So we have the screenshot and we have the state of text inside of this. So circle BG now, let's give it a display of flex. So let's give circle BG a display of flex. Yeah, so that's fine. So now the two things should be beside each other. Yeah, that should be happening now. And why is it not happening? So let's circle BG having a display of flex. And okay, I think I haven't saved the CSS changes. I haven't saved it. So let's save it and take a look. So they are beside each other now. And not quite the way we want it to be beside each other, but they are actually beside each other. So let's. So yeah. So because I am circle BG, so we have this paragraph and the H1 inside of the state of text. So let's just try to fix those ones now. So we have a lot of work. We have a little work to do on this one. Let me just collapse this. We have a little work to do here. Yeah, basically. So, but for now, let's just focus on what's it called? The text. So let's say color, and let our color be white. Let's just use let's quotes FFF, and then so that you inherit every other text inside of it will inherit it. So we are looking at this now. So what we want to do now is to just because circle BG has a display of flex, let's do align items, which is vertical alignment center, so that it becomes centralized just like this. Yeah, and I think we need more text inside of this guy here. So let's just add more text, because the text we have is actually smaller than what we will necessarily need, what we'll be needing. Yeah. So we have this, and I think we need a little bit more text here, because I think what we have there is my screen is actually bigger, so it's kind of just making more demands on. Let me save it. So for now, I think this will do. So, and I think setting 35 pixels here, we might need to increase this to probably 45 pixels. Maybe. Let's just see what it looks like. Okay. So you can see that we're having a problem now. Our problem is that the background image, which is supposed to be just on one side, is spilling over to almost the middle of the page. That's not the way it is here actually. Here it's kind of just on one side. It is not kind of spiraling out. So what we might try to do is can do background size of let's set background size to 45% as well, which is the dimension of the first container that we're looking for. So that sets the background color to be on this side alone. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, makes sense. Okay. So now what the other thing we can do is we can set background size to that, that dimension. Then we can also decide to. So I think this image, we have to get this image out, because this image, this image needs to get out of the, it needs to kind of just be at the top, kind of flow out of, the normal flow of the stuff, because a part of it is at the top and a part of it is at the bottom. I don't know if you guys have noticed that to be a challenge from what you were doing, but I think we have that challenge now. We just need to have to fix it. What I'm saying, does it make sense to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, but before we do that image, let's just sort this background, image that is here, this one, because I think their own is actually cutting out to the top, but our own is cutting out to the bottom. I don't know if what I said just makes sense. Background position is what we need to use now. So we need to do a bottom, set a bottom of 15 pixels, and let's see what that will look like when we set it. So we want to just push it upwards. Okay, let me just directly work on it here. Then whatever will come up with, I'll take it to the actual CSS. So that's the circle BG. So background position. Okay, 15%. I think I'm not done setting everything I need to set. So 15%. So left, I want my, okay, I think we're almost there. So I want the left to be minus 50. Okay, let me reduce that a little bit to 30. Okay, I think I can't say it's more like it, but let's do 1. Then bottom, I think we need to tweak the bottom a little bit to about 18 pixels. Okay, hold on, let's just take a look. I think I'm missing what. Okay, I think it's actually touching the bottom. That circle is actually cutting out from the bottom, right? And then this one is entering almost like into the wall. So I think that's what we need to work on now. So we have bottom of minus 10 pixels. It shouldn't really be minus 10 pixels. So let's just remove the minus. So I think the 15 pixels is fine. I thought it's actually not touching the bottom of it. So I think here we need about 3 and minus 1 pixels or minus 2 pixels. So I think this is fine. Does that make sense to you guys? Hello? Hello?
Yes. Sir, I want to say something.
Okay.
I want to reset the height of the background from the state of
From what?
when you are calling the class for state of. You say maybe we can set the height.
Of what? The background.
Yes.
Okay, you mean something like background height. No, it's background size
Yes.
actually. Can only do background size, you
Okay.
can't do background height. And which we already doing
Okay.
here, we are already specifying. But you can do I think you can do the horizontal and vertical offset of the background. But I think what we have here is just okay. We want to take, and I think let's reduce this to 35 pixels actually. 35%. That doesn't look so good. But my screen is bigger, so I don't know what it's looking like on you guys' screen actually. Okay. I think I have an idea of what it's looking like on your screen. So let's just leave it this way for now. So we'll come back to it later. So background size, let's set background size to 40 pixels basically. Then the background position, let's set that to this, which is what we just came up with from, playing around the Chrome, the Brave developer tool. So it looks more like it now. So what we need to do now is we need to get rid of this image and make sure this image is positioned absolute to this what's it called, our main section element. So our image now, instead of putting it inside of this guy here, instead of putting it here, let's just take it out of here and let's take it to the top. And the idea is because we want to place screenshot absolute to the state of div. And when I do that, see that a lot of things won't look the same anymore. Yeah, everything now looks scattered, but that's fine. So what we'll do basically is we've already given this a property of display relative, which is what we are doing here. We gave it display of relative. So for the screenshot now, the screenshot div, we want to give that a display of absolute. And you see what I will do in a moment is going to just throw away, it's going to almost throw away our image if it's actually seeing that property now. So let me just make sure it is seeing it. So we have state of, yeah. So let me minimize this. So we have state of, which is this. Then we have the screenshot div. Let me just copy to make sure that everything is fine. So this is having a position of relative. We will give this one a position of absolute. And I will just show you what I mean by that in a little bit. And we are going to do that apart from this project. I will just show you what relative and absolute does. So for the screenshot div, so I think some reasons that isn't actually working fine. So let me see why it isn't working, because it should work now really. Have I saved it? Yeah, I have. So let me reload it and then just take a look at it. So take a look at this div, which is this div here. So okay, absolute is not working. Okay, it's not display of absolute, actually it's position absolute. So it throws our image away. Can you see that now? Our image is out of place. And what positioning absolute does is that it takes your normal regular flow for the elements out of the normal top to bottom flow in HTML. You know, HTML, once you put an element at the top, the next one comes next to it, the third one comes next to that, and so on. You get the point? So you just keep going like that from top to bottom. But when you use position absolute, it doesn't follow that normal flow. It breaks that flow. So it's now positioned absolute relative to another parent. I will just tell you what I mean by that in a moment. So what I mean by that is the fact that it is inside of this parent, and I'm going to use this top and bottom what's it called property value pairs to actually explain what I mean to you. So because you put a position of absolute, we'll now do top. We'll do a top of 0, and to be able to do that let me just give this a height, the state of let's give it a height of 400 pixels. Yeah, so just like this. So you can see that our image is now flowing out of it, and it's unapologetic about it. So we give this a position of absolute, we give it a top of 0. When we give it a top of 0, it's going to be 0 pixels far from the top of the parent, 0, and then we want to give it a left of 0 as well. So when we take a look at the image now, so you can see this is the image. It is 0% to the top of the parent, but somehow to the left, which is this. So I think one problem we are having here is, let me just get rid of this. Yeah, so position absolute, yeah, that's fine. So for the div, I think okay. So then I think I also need to remove the display of flex from here temporarily, just to see what we are doing. So left 0, top 0, and let me do top of minus 10 pixels. So you will see that it keeps moving on or upwards. I'll do minus 100 pixels. You can see that we are getting almost what we want to achieve now. So I'll do minus 50 pixels. And what I want to do is I want to be able to get the height of this image. And technically here, the height of this div that contains the image is 552 pixels. So, and the height of the div itself is 400 pixels. Yeah. So sorry, not 552 pixels. The height is 579 pixels. And this is what's it called? 400. So 552 minus 400 is now the problem. So 552 minus 400, that's 152. So 152 divided by 2. The hell of a calculation to make 152 divided by 2. So okay, so I think to help us place that element appropriately, so I think we need a top of minus 76 pixels. Okay, so I think it's properly placed now. Yeah, minus 76 pixels, and let me just change it to 75, but yeah, 74. So it gives us an idea of what we need. So we now have what we are looking for now, which is almost something like this. Yeah, then what the other thing we need to do now is to just give our, so instead of, because now our flex in our flex box, our what's it called, our parent just has just one element, which is this element here. And I'll just go over this again, guys, because I'm definitely sure it's not very clear the way I'm doing it now. So I'll go over this So this circle BG. So we now have just one element in it, which is this particular element. So we still give it a display of flex like we promised it was going to have. So on our state of, let's remove the display of flex. We don't need that anymore. Circle BG, we need a display of flex. So we now do, instead of align item center, we just do, for now, let's do justify content, flex, and yeah, for it. Okay, I think we add that height here. So we add a height of 400 pixels. Yeah, and then here on our screenshot, we did a top of 72 pixels. And then a left of, let's do a left of about 50 pixels. So let's save that and see what that looks like. Okay. So for this guy here, which is the what's it called, the image, sorry, the paragraph, we just fix this. Okay, actually fix it in Chrome. Okay. Hello, are you guys still with me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I did fix this in Chrome, but I didn't fix it here. Okay, so let's do a display of flex here. Circle BG. Let me remove this and let's just save it and see what that looks like. So all we need to do now is I want to be able to, so technically this guy should not even interfere with the flow of our element at all. So what we need to do here is to justify content flex and do so I think let me just get rid of these two guys first. Okay. So for some reasons, I'm trying to find out what is really happening here. So we have this screenshot, which is having a left of this. Okay, that's fine. Top up. Oh. Did our top was negative, but minus. Okay, I think this is what we did before. Then the width of our element, the width of our image. So the image is 100%. While the wrapper for the image is supposed to be okay. Okay, so then again, our circle BG, what's our circle BG? Okay, our circle BG is still taking 100%, which is not supposed to be. So our circle BG is going to be 45%. The next thing, circle BG. So inside of circle BG, okay, circle BG should be 100%. Then so this guy here is what we need to work on, our state of text. So I think we already picked it in our CSS. So we want it to have a width of 45 pixels, 45% of the entire width. Yeah, and then want to give it a margin left of. Okay, so for this guy now, so we just need to move it upwards a little bit more, and I don't know why it kind of just came down, because I think I set the size here. So okay, so I think what we are looking for is a top of 71 minus 71 pixels. Okay, I think that's what we actually got before when we did it. The element is that again, so it is the screenshot. Actually the screenshot top is minus 71, not 71. Okay, I think that's where the mistake is coming from. So 71 pixels, so that's that now. So I think that works. So next thing we now need to work on is this guy here. Yeah, so circle BG inside of our state of BG. So we give this a display of flex, and we'll give it just 5 content of flex and align items. of center. So that kind of puts it in the middle here. So yeah, so that's that. So state of justify content center, sorry, flex and align items center. So that looks okay now. But one other thing we need to just check is the spacing here and then the spacing here. So we'll do that by just adding a padding to this. So we'll do a padding. So padding left. So padding top and bottom, let's keep that at 50. Sorry, let's do 30 pixels, and left and let's do 50 pixels, and let's see what that would look like now. So hold on. Okay, so I don't know why the changes keep getting reversed, so let me just leave this for now. So the changes keep getting turned back. Okay, circle BG. Okay. Circle BG should have a width of. Jesus, we've messed a lot of things up, really, including our background, right? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I wasn't even looking at the background initially. Wow. Which change did we actually implement that proved that? I think it's because we tampered with that circle BG. So that's one of the issues we have. I've forgotten that the circle BG is actually where we are setting the background. So we shouldn't really touch that under no circumstances. So what we need to do here is wow. We've messed this up. So let me just go back there. So for now, I think let me set a display of none for this image. So let's try and get our background back. So okay, that's fine. So instead of should have a display of flex so that everything fills the screen. So I think removing display of flex is what caused the problem. Display of flex. So yeah, so I think everything is fine now. Right, looks like what we wanted. So let's just focus on bringing this guy down to the middle of here. So what we have here is this. So instead of doing like this, so what I'm going to do now in essence is just to bring this state of text and this circle BG and separate it from this text. And what I'm going to do here is I will just separate circle BG from my text. So let's circle BG, just stay alone, and then let me separate my text from that. So it's going to cause some kind of it's going to break something a little bit, but we'll fix that in a bit. But I think at the moment that's like the best thing we need to do now. Yeah. So the width is 100%. We have to reduce the width from 100%. So we want it to have a width of the circle BG to have a width of 45% or 35%. Okay. So let me just focus on it here. So width of okay, background size. Okay, I think background size should be cover. Yeah, background size is cover. That's what we need to do. So instead of doing all of that, so background size should not be 40% anymore, because 40% is shrinking the background. So we'll do background size of cover. So that's what we need to apply here. So now we have to focus on, because this circle BG now is containing 35%, 45% of our width. So this one now, we have to really remove the margin auto that we added to it initially. Yeah, the margin we added to it initially, which is this. So we remove the margin auto. Yeah. So let's come back here now. So what we need to do now is to add a margin to the top and the bottom of this the other guy here. So so we have the circle BG on one side and we have this on another side. So inside of state of, I just want us to add and I want, okay, I think this is the one with the background of 45 pixels. Sorry, the width of 45 pixels. This one is 35 pixels actually. That's what we need to do. Yeah. So what we need to do now is just to space this out a little bit. So we'll do an align items. So, okay. So for this state text now, I just want to add a margin auto. Yeah, for just the margin auto. So that just kind of, so I think that is okay. Now let's compare with the original design we have. So we just need to add some space here under the H1. So we have H3 margin bottom for H3. So we have dot state of text margin bottom, and we are now adding it to the state of text class. We're adding it to the H3, so we need to target the H3 inside of that. So inside of the H3, we want to add the margin bottom of about 20 pixels, which I think that's what's there at the moment. So I think that's okay. And we want to come over to the paragraph, and I think the paragraph here, okay, I think it's okay. So what do you think, guys? Hello? Are you guys in sync with what I'm doing? And I think I need to tweak this background image a little bit more. So I will have to work on this a little bit more. Are you guys still with me at all, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you understand what I'm doing so far?
Yes, sir. You said you want to tweak the background.
Yeah,
Where
this-
you need to,
This background.
where it is called.
Yeah, no, not even that. This background image itself. If you look at the original image, we have it's kind of flowing into this guy. It's flowing into what's it called? The state of art infrastructure. So I think the problem here is with our HTML actually. So I haven't really given this a good thought. Yeah, so I think the problem is with our HTML. Yeah. So we have to actually fix the HTML before we can actually talk about fixing this problem. So I'm trying to, okay. So I'm trying to actually fix this the good way, because at the moment we have to be able to allow this background overflow here, and if I should do anything other than this background of cover with the current HTML structure, if I do anything other than background of cover, which that means I'll have to introduce what we had here before. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. The background size of I think what we had before was bottom of sorry. We have background size of bottom. I think we had 15 pixels or thereabout. And then we had a left of, forgotten what we had, maybe 20 pixels or something, or minus 20 pixels. So let's just check what that looks like again. So it doesn't even really look so good, because you see it is cutting out, and the reason why it cuts out is because we have a width set on our, what's it called, on our element itself. We had a width set on it, So setting this width alone is where the problem is coming from, because the background will not spill out of the width. So we have to be able to fix that, the proper way. So the only way I can think about now is to actually, bring back our element inside this circle BG. And I just had to quickly take it out because I wanted to know where the issue is coming from. So let's bring it back inside of it. And a lot of things will break, but don't be bothered. We're just going to fix it. So we have this now. So I think this is more like what we need to have, right? I mean the image, how it spills over into the other side. This is more like what we need to have. So we just have to focus on this paragraph now to put it where we want it to be. So let me start by trying to do that inside of this Chrome developer tool now. So our image is positioned absolutely, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So here we have this particular element here with margin of auto. So we don't want this margin of auto. Don't want margin, sorry. So circle BG is filling the entire screen. Instead of text is just where it is. So we want a margin top. So instead of as a okay, let's give it a display of flex. And then let's give it align items center, justify content center. Yeah, sorry, justify content flex, and yeah, I think that's what we need to give to it. Then on the element itself, let's add a margin of auto for and then let's not auto to the right. Let's just set the auto. Sorry. And the truth is that we can actually fix this whichever way, just that we have to fix it the right way. That's the point. So so what we do just in a nutshell while we are doing this mobile desktop version of this app is looking at this image. This we want our margin to actually go beyond this image. So that's why we are doing justify content to the image of flex end. So on the state of text, which is state of the art text. So we want to be able to the image is here like this and it's positioned absolute. So we want the circle BG to fill the entire state of div, which is already doing that. Then we want the text here to actually be pushed to the left hand side. So let me first remove this margin auto, which is what we did before, and let me do align items. So let me get rid of these two. So let's focus on the paragraph and the H1, which is this text in totality. So I think one of the things we need to do here is okay. Display of flex. Justify content flex, and yeah, that's what we need to do to the circle BG. So let's go back to our circle BG, our CSS. And let's just see if everything is still okay. The way we want it to be. Okay. Circle BG, I think we wanted a 55%. So circle BG. So want to give it a display of flex, and then want to justify content flex and here. So instead of this, let's not specify any direct. Okay, justifying content to the flex and yeah. Okay. What I'll do in this regard is because of the circle BG, so I think we just need to structure our HTML a little bit more better. So what we'll do in this regard is, beside the screenshot, this screenshot which is position absolute, we'll just create this, I'll create another element inside of this, and it's going to be like a pseudo element. So pseudo that is not going to contain anything, so I'm just going to call it div dot blank div here, and I'm going to give it the blank div what's it called, I'm going to give it a width as well. So together with So it's inside of what's it called? It's inside of our state of, yeah. No, it's inside of our what's it called? Circle BG div. So what I'll do is the blank div now. I'm going to give it Jesus. I'm going to give it a width of 50 pixels. Yeah. Let it just take that. So yeah, the blank the width of 60 pixels, height of 100%. So let me open this and see what's happening here. And the goal is that we have to be able to do this the correct way. What is that? Blank. So circle BG, display of legs, just 5 contents. So to be able to just see this, let me give this no, not a width of 50 pixels, it's a width of 50% actually. Okay, I think that's okay. So but instead of 50, let's just give it the same dimension, this what's it called, the screenshot device, which is roughly 35%. Okay, I think that's it now. So that looks more like what we are trying to achieve. So do you guys understand it so far? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear? If it is not clear, let me know, please. Hello? Hello? I said, is it clear? Eh? Eh? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Sir, it's not permission to
Eh?
can watch the replay and understand
Okay.
further.
It's something we need to watch to replay.
Okay. So let me just, in a nutshell, explain what is going on here. You know, like the only reason why this particular section appears to be more tricky is because this position absolute stuff we are using here. So, and that's because this stuff is actually spilling out from the top of the div, then another one at the bottom, you get. So it is more like breaking out of the container. So the way we achieve that is by giving this container a position of relative, then giving the element inside of it a position of absolute. And just to show you what relative and absolute looks like, let me just create a new HTML file. So I'm going to do so let's just create a new boilerplate. So we do that. So we have this, and we'll talk about this maybe deeper, maybe in some other classes, but let me just show you what I mean by that. So I'll create another div inside this div. Then for this div, I'm going to put a style attribute because we are just a demonstration, for the background color of red. I don't know, I'm always using red. Then I'll give it a height of 500 pixels. Then I'll give it a width. Sorry, is everything okay? Okay, I shouldn't go out of that quotation sign. So colon, a width of 500 pixels. Yeah, and a height of 500 pixels as well. Let's just do it that way. So if I copy the path here, and I'm not playing with live server so that it doesn't just disrupt what we are trying to do. All right. What is that? This is a new development or what?
Yes, sir.
When did that happen? I'm just seeing the ugly change happening on the stuff we are trying to create here. Okay, I think we'll take a look at this, but let me just show you what I mean. So let me paste this. So this is the div, like the parent div that we are having. So inside of here we have a child div as well, and I'm just going to copy almost the same. I'm going to copy the property I specified already, and I'm going to put it here. So here, instead of saying 500 pixels, I'll just make this a 100 pixels box, 100 pixels high and tall. Then I'll make the color. Let me make the color green to make it very pronounced. So when I go inside of here, you're going to see that when I reload, you can see the box here. So the idea of position, relative, and absolute is, and I don't know if this inline styling is making sense, or should we just move it to block level styling, because I'm going to be writing some CSS rule sets here. I think let's move it to block level styling just for the sake of this particular. So I'll make it okay, I'll give one div a class name of parent box, and then I'll copy all of these styles inside of it. Then I'll give the other one a class name of child box. I'll copy all of this. Yeah, so let me just get rid of all of this, so it should still be the same. So it should still be the same thing. Oh wow, sorry, I haven't added the class names actually. So let me add the class name. So this one is going to have okay, so having this now, so I will give the parent box a position of relative, and it's very important I do that, because okay, let me just do that, position of relative. Yeah, when I do that, nothing is going to happen just yet, just the same. It's going to be the same box. So when I reload, it's going to be the same box. So I'll give the child a position of absolute. So giving a child a position of absolute, see, nothing still happens. But what I can now do is, I can now do something like, when I, and let me just comment out the absolute in a bit. Let me save it. Let me create another div and call that child box 2, and that's what I'll call it. So I also put it, it's also in the parent box. Then I will kind of child box. Yeah. Then I'll give it a background color of yellow, and I'll give this a background color. Sorry, I'll give it a width of 100 pixels as well. Then a height of 100 pixels. So let's see what that looks like. So let's save it. So you can see that this one right here is the second one, and the chat box 1, I didn't put 1 actually. Let me just put 1, and then let me put 1 here as well. So I will not give chat box 2 a position of chat box 1 a position of relative again. So see what it looks like. By normal, by default, the first one should be the first element in our HTML document, right? And the second one should be the second element in our HTML document. Does that make sense? That is, HTML starts from top to bottom as well. It puts the first element first, the second one next to it, and then it keeps going like that. Does that make sense? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
What is making sense? What did I ask?
Sir, can I hear you?
And what did I say? What did you hear? Anybody? Hello? Hello? I said, what did I say now? What was the thing I was talking about? So what did you hear when you said you can hear me?
Because I could not hear you. My network was disturbing.
Okay, I said by default, when you have an HTML document like this, the first element comes first.
Yes.
The second one comes next. Like they keep stacking on top of one another. So the element you write first will actually display flex in HTML, first in HTML. So the chat box one is the one with the green color. The chat box two is the one with the yellow color. So chat box one definitely will come before chat box two. You get the point? By default or
Yes.
by the nature of our arrangement in HTML here. So, but position, relative, and absolute actually overrides that order. So when I do position absolute, sorry, here, and I save it, watch what is going to happen when I reload. Sorry. Okay, let me remove on the body tag. Let me remove the what's it called? The default margin and padding. So I gave chat box to a position of absolute. So when I give it a top of 0, is this thing actually getting this class name? Okay, that's the class name. So top of 0 pixels. Let me do it. Okay, you can see what is happening now. That it's kind of just forcing itself on that first element, and it's because they have the same size. But what is happening here is that it is displaying itself in a position that is absolute to the viewport. So if I set it to maybe 100 pixels to the top, or let me say 200, the order will now be regardless of what has come before it or what is after it. Can you see now? It leaves a space of 100 pixels because I said from the top it should be displayed 200 pixels from the top. So you can see that there's a 100 pixels gap between the first element and where the second element is placed. So when I do position absolute, I can actually use it to place my element wherever I want it to be on the screen. So I can do left of 300 pixels and watch what will happen. I just change the order of how my element is arranged. You can see that it is now arranged, it is now placed here instead of just being placed here. And now the amazing thing about this is that if I have another element, for instance, maybe chat box 3 and chat box 4, let me do 3 and 4. And let me do 4 here. And when I save it, you can see that those ones will still get arranged in the normal. Sorry. Okay, chat box 3 and 4. I still need to create a class for them. Sorry, I need to. So let me do let me just do the normal default HTML class styling for them. So, and I don't know if you guys are following what I'm doing. So chatbot, I won't do chatbox 2. I'm just trying to target 3 and 4 because 2 is what I'm using, is my point of reference. So chatbox 2, chatbox 3. So saving it now. We skipped 2 up here. Chatbox 4 rather. Let's do 4. So we are doing 4, 3, and 1 here. We are giving it this same green color. So when we save this and go, you will see that like 1, 3, and 4 are displayed just the way they should be displayed. But 2 kind of just defies that order, and it is being displayed the way we specified for it to display. And that's relative to this, what's it called? The absolute position we put on it. And it is absolute to the position of our body tag, the outermost parent that has a relative, relative property on it. So if we remove the relative from this parent box, it is now going to be relative to the body of the document, no longer relative to the body of our box. And just to let you know that you know what I mean, I'm going to give this a margin top of 300 pixels. So let's do that. So giving it a margin top of 300 pixels, you're going to see that it is now out of, in as much as it is inside of our box, but now it is out of the box because it is now relative to the body, no longer relative to our parents, its parent element, which is the parent box. So I can actually use it to place my element wherever I want it to be, regardless of where it is seated in my normal HTML. So even if it is seated, like for instance, at the moment it is seated here inside of the parent box, but it is being displayed outside of the parent box. Does that make sense to you guys? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Makes sense, but so you are just disrupting the normal flow of the HTML, how HTML renders things from top to bottom by using a relative of absolute and a position of absolute. But that absolute has to be relative to something else. So if you don't specify relative on any immediate element, it is going to be relative to the body by default. But if we specify relative to its parent box, which is this box, then it is going to be absolute to that particular element's position, so which is here. So it is going to be playing around inside of the main parent box. So I can actually push it to the left, maybe to like 450 pixels, and you're going to see what is going to happen. It's just going to be at the edge here. So it's going to be, you see, part of it is outside and part of it is inside. So you can actually do a lot of dynamic things just with this position, relative, and absolute. And I'm sure you must have seen a lot of things in that regard. So in our project here, the reason why that is actually why we had to do position absolute is because of this element that is actually coming out. So we wanted to disrupt the normal flow of the HTML document to be able to position our element, somewhat at the edge of its parent container. If not, it has to be inside of its parent container. Does that make sense now, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is it clearer now? Hello? Okay, so your next assignment is going to be something like this. We are going to deal with this position, relative, and absolute, and we're also going to deal with overflowing content and nominal and absolute dimensions in terms of width and height. So just for you to understand it, so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating something that looks more like checkers, and then so that when I change the class name, the element just moves in different directions. But we'll talk about that later. So let me just delete this position absolute, whatever it is. So let me delete this. And I don't know why something actually is updating the page we have created. I don't know if it is something updating the change, or the computer is becoming slow that it now like. So I'll just have to find out why this is happening. I don't know why that is happening. Overflow. Sorry. Okay, I think that's why that is happening. So, but it wasn't always like that. So that means, we said overflow hidden on our body element. So now this one is now overflowing, and it happens like that sometimes. So let's just go to this, our illustration wrap, and also put an overflow hidden on it in CSS. So let me just search for that quickly. Sorry. Illustration wrapper. So illustration wrapper, the actual element itself. So let's do this, and let's do overflow X hidden. So I think that's okay now, right? I think everything looks okay now, guys. So remember how we were able to push this to the other side, and that's like the quickest thing I can actually think about now is to just create an empty div under this image here, so that we can, with that, be able to push this text to the right hand side. And there are a lot of ways to do that, but that's more like what my head is more open to at this point in time. I'm sorry about that. So let's just deal with this border radius here and border radius here that we have on the elements. So we have a border radius here and border radius here, similar to what we've done here. So in order for us to be able to do that, let's just go back to the top of the page where we did that. The border bottom left, border left bottom radius, or whichever way it is called. So border bottom, so that's this. So let me just get that. So we are going to be applying that to this our state of div, which is this div. So let's just do this now. Border bottom this radius. So you can see we have that here now. So guess how we do the one at the top? How do we do the same thing to here, to this side?
Border top right radius.
Yeah, clap for yourself. Ekushe. Okay. So border top right here. So you can read all across the various axes like that. Border top right. Yeah. Save it. So we are going to get that same effect. So you can see that we have that now. God. Okay, so now we have that. Yeah. So make it Jesus. So this is bad. So this is bad. Yeah. So what we can do now here is, I think what we're actually specifying here is a lot, which is here. So what we can do here is to just, and I will give you a screenshot any dimension. So what we can do here is, instead of doing we'll do our top, okay, as usual. Then our left, let's remove the minor thing. Let's actually put a negative value on the left. And you will get a lot of things like this eventually as you do the things you do. So let's do a width of 90. Sorry. No. 40. So left of this. So that means we have to kind of just fix this a little bit more. And you know, across various screen sizes, you are going to have a lot of challenges. So there's something called media query, and I think, let me not just overkill that now. Let's focus on the full screen, you know, the full screen version of the site. What is this again? Okay. Let's focus on the full screen version of the site actually, like this. Because if we have to do mobile stuff like this, it is another ball game entirely. Honestly, trust me. Yeah, so we have to do what is called media query. We haven't really got into that aspect of CSS yet, so let's just stay here for now. So when you change your screen size, definitely you have to do a lot, and that's why you see that in our image section here, you actually have different images for either, you know, desktop and, you know, laptop view. So here we have we have a pattern for mobile. If you can see here, what's that? I'm talking about our design. Let me just bring out that this thing. So if you took a look at if you've taken a proper look at the front end mentors, you know, challenge, you actually see that you know, your desktop design and your mobile design are actually two different things. Have you guys noticed that? So if you look at the mobile design, sorry, okay, I think it's in the design. So you can see that the mobile is actually a lot more different than the desktop design. Where now is the mobile design? So what we are doing here is the desktop design. So this is the mobile design basically. So for you to be able to convert this desktop design to a mobile design like this, we have to do what is called media query. Do you get it? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe for the sake of this project, I just don't know how overwhelming this is. I would expect that everybody should be able to do this thing up to the point where we've done it. So if you do it up to this point, then on this project, we can actually decide to do the mobile version as well with the media query. I don't know, that makes sense, right? So that we'll not just do the desktop version and, you know, call it a day. Because as your screen size changes, you have to keep making your design responsive across different screen sizes, especially for the mobile version. Some parts of the design, you can see our nav here is already becoming a problem on the mobile version. You can see. And a lot of things, and this is what it should really look like on the mobile version. It should look like what we have here in this, you know, this particular site. So our header, which is our hero section, should look like this. This section should look like this, as against what we have here on, you know, you can see the difference between the desktop and the mobile design. So you have to add some, you have to do some extra CSS stuff to be able to convert this to this. You might even need to add some additional HTML elements to be able to, you know, get this. That is, there are some things you hide on mobile, you show on desktop, or place this way on desktop, hide, place this way on mobile. So that is called basically media query, and it's a CSS thing. So this is the mobile design. So when we code now, we're actually coding for desktop first. We are using a desktop first approach. So we are coding for a desktop, you know, view. So that's what is happening now basically. So across various screen sizes, this same web page will have different behaviors until you now decide to do the mobile media query for each one. Does it make sense? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's that. So let's just keep that away for now. So let's go to the next section actually, which is this. Jesus, we have to finish this stuff. So in order to do this, I'll just go on to copy this guy. I'm just going to go and copy it. I'll just copy this guy and we just rework it, like just work it to suit this place. So let's go to that section because we have to finish this stuff tonight. But this footer might be sort of a challenge. Okay, not a challenge basically. I'm just going to rush through it. So you watch the video replay. Keep watching it as fast, many times as possible till you get to understand it. So I'll just go to the next section. I'll just paste that. And when I paste it, you will see that we have that section underneath this section in our list. So we have it now. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to invert this, put this on this side and take this to this side. So that's what we are trying to do. So I will take the right section and put it to the left, and then we call it a day. So let's see how that will behave. Probably will misbehave. So it misbehaves, yeah. And that's because of this left we are setting on this element here. We set a left of 20 something pixels, blah, blah, blah. And then we are setting a what's it called? Jesus. We are setting a justify content of flex end. So let's just fix those two changes. And let me just use the inspect. Let me just inspect that to let you know what I'm talking about. So when I do this now, this illustration, this section, right, the width is 45 pixels, while this other one has a width of 35 pixels, but that's not really the problem. So now our image is having a left of 25 pixels, so let's just correct that for now. So our subsection blah 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 is having a justify content of flex end, so let's remove that. So for this one, we are going to just set probably a margin left of about 40 pixels, yeah, so something like that. So on our image, and I don't know, whenever I do this now, I become very lazy. So you can see now that we can shift this to the other side just like that. So that's how we're able to, we'll be able to do this basically. Does that make sense, guys? So we are just inverting what we already have. So let me just reload this to get it back to what it was. So we are moving things around a little bit. So what is the class name responsible for, for the justify content flex end? So let's just use that to deal with the space here first of all. So the class name responsible for the justify content flex end is this subsection wrapper. So let's just say subsection wrapper 2, yeah. So instead of setting justify content flex end, we're just going to remove that. Or one other thing we can do in this regard, instead of setting another class name, is that you can just decide to use the style attribute, yeah, and do justify content, then we do on set, yeah, on set justify content center, and that should kind of just fix that for us. Yeah, so you see fix, I think it should fix it. So it has fixed the justify content issue for us. Then but let's not do that. Let's just do something that is standard. Yeah, let's do what's standard. So let's add a different class name for it. So let's just call it 2. Who is looking for trouble? So subsection wrapper 2, yeah, subsection wrapper 2. So we are going to just do copy most of the things. I can't even hear what you're saying. Your mic is sounding very funny. So we have this display of flex. So we just copy this, and the only thing that will be different, maybe you should type your text as a chat. The only thing that will be different is this justify content flex, and so we can set it to flex start, and that should be fine. So let's go back to our code. So now it is justifying the content to flex start, and let us also remove this design for the future, because I don't think we need design for the future. This one is not designed for the future, it's designed for the hue builds. So let's remove this. So that's that. So now we are setting Triumph, you are saying something, I didn't hear what you were saying. So subsection right, sorry, let's do 2. Let's do right. So instead of left 28 pixels, we just do dot right. Now do right. Triumph, are you trying to say something? You can type it in the chat section, please, so we can get it.
No, sir, I'm just trying to follow along. That's all.
Okay. So now you following along.
Yes. Second part is well, the second section doesn't have issue with, but I'll sort it out. Goes to the line now.
Okay. Who joins the meeting at this time? Okay, right. And then right, we want to target the IMG in the right. So instead of 28, we want to use like 38 pixels. So let's see what that looks like. Might look very ugly, but it should be fine. Okay. And it seems like nothing is actually happening. So we added a class of right to this. Where did we add the right? Okay, sorry. I think this is not where we need to add right. So I think we need to add right here. And we are just using this right class name to add this property to this right of 38 pixels so that we can move this, what's it called, this image down to this side. And for some reasons, isn't that working? So right, so image, so right. And the left is still predominant. So we don't want the left to be predominant anymore. So subsection right IMG. So we have right IMG. So subsection right, where's subsection right? Subsection right is this guy right here, subsection right. Then we have right, then IMG. Yeah. So we don't want this to be happening here. So I think what we just need to do is just to do. For some reasons, this style still overrides that one. So does it mean that it's underneath it or something? Oh, sorry. We need a position of relative. And this is actually the fruit of laziness. So let me just go on back here, and then let's just change the class name so we don't keep having that challenge. Because subsection right, as long as we keep having that subsection right, so let's do subsection right 2. Yeah, then we'll do IMG for it. Or another thing we could do is let's just add a class name to our image, and let's add that class name of, yeah, instead of adding it here. So in our right, so this should work. Okay, I want to see where that stuff is really coming from. So we have subsection image. This is where that style is coming from. That is really frustrating our effort, and it is overriding this one. So for some reasons, I'm trying to find out. Okay, so I think what we need to do, let's just use a selector with a higher precedence, which is an ID. So let's use an ID to add that, and let's see if the rebellion will still continue. So instead of class, let's just do ID. So what is that? So this is actually working now, but somehow this is okay. This is a combined selector, right? So let's do subsection right. So subsection, you remember that combined selectors actually have a higher precedence compared to, what's it called? You remember? Hello? Combined selectors have higher precedence compared to, so subsection right, which is this. Then we'll target the illustration wrapper, then target the IMG. I just want to fix this the fastest way possible. I'm so tired. Then if against all odds, I think we just have to, because this still, it selects that element. I just don't know why that is happening. And this keeps coming back to override that. So I think let's do IMG. Okay, I think the only cure now at this point is just to change the class so that it doesn't.
Sir,
Yeah.
if you check it, you don't have to use dot again. You use hashtag.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. It was an hashtag. So what I will just do is, because this is the class that is overriding what we have, and we've already said that before. This subsection right IMG. You know, we've done something like this before along the line in our CSS. So it's overriding everything we do now because it's a combined selector. So all we need to do now is just to do copy this, and then we'll come downwards to where we are doing all of this. So instead of just going over that's over and over, let's just do 2 here. Then when we do 2, we just kind of come here and to our that element in our own that part, because we are copying the code to use it again. So we just have to put it here and paste it, I guess, and this should solve it for us. I mean, for good. And do we still have that left? Where is that coming from? Is everything okay? Let me do a hard reload. I don't understand what is happening. It shouldn't be on that element anymore. That shouldn't be happening anymore. So okay, sorry. The problem is what we are doing actually. So we are still using left. So in this case, we have to just use right. Yes, Jesus. Okay, so I think that works now. Do you know the challenge we're having, guys? Like, is it clear to you the challenge we're having? So for this width now, let's also set that width for the right to 45 pixels. And you can just go over that, please, at your time. Yeah, 45 pixels. So that should be fine now. So I think just in a nutshell, we've been able to replicate this section. So we just need to change the image here, the image that is currently on the element. So the image that we need on the element should be the, what's it called? Slash, wow, what is that? So laptop, I think that's the one pertaining to the laptop desktop. So I think that's this image here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So those 2 things, so we might need to just reduce some dimensions eventually, but you understand what I did by just using the same code to, you know, fix this other side for us. Hello? And I think there's just a little more text on this particular section, maybe. Yeah, a little more text. Yeah, underneath here, I think a little more text, maybe just like maybe one more line compound. Hello guys, do you get it? Because I can't afford having us do this thing on Monday again. It's not going to happen. So Alpha, is it clear? Hello? Hello? Is everybody asleep now?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so that's this. So for the illustration wrapper, I think it's going way over the top of its head. What is that? Okay. Okay, I think this 50 should be okay. Overflow 50 is so that's that about this particular. What is that? 50 and 5. Yeah, so So the next thing we need to do now is just to target the footer. So the footer will be very similar to this. So I can just get this section, cut out everything inside of it, remove the background that we are using inside of it. So sorry about that, guys. We just have to rush through this. So I'm just going to get this state of the art section and paste it for a footer. And it's very important we just go over this quickly. So let me just that section. And this is actually this is a very lazy thing to do now, but I just think we have to do it like this. Sorry about that, guys, but I can't have us go over this thing again next week. So this circle BG, we are going to have to remove the circle BG, so we're going to call it footer logo. Yeah, that's the first thing we deal with. So let me just give this another name just to make sure that it's not the same thing. So that's the footer here, and then for the main state of, so let's just call it sorry, so let's call it footer wrapper, and let me get the state of container here. So let me just get everything in the state of and use it for our footer as well. So let me go down. I will just change the class name to footer wrapper, and then I'm going to remove this bottom left border blah blah blah. Remove that, and I'll remove margin bottom as well. We don't need that. So when I save it, let's go back there and let's see what it looks like. So I also remove this position relative. I don't need that. I will remove what's it called, the image inside of it, the image with the position of absolute. Yeah, remove that as well. So that kind of just makes our element sit at the bottom of the page. So let's see why that space at the bottom is still there, basically. Okay, state of text. So let me remove that state of text as well. So let me just remove it. And as a matter of fact, I think basically we just have to remove every single thing. Yeah. So let's just leave our footer, what's it called, that way. So we know we have the wrapper for our footer now. So our footer looks like this now. We have just that. Does that make sense, guys? So now with this, we can actually start putting in everything here. So the first thing we'll put in is bring back this our blog, our what's it called, container. Sorry, the logo rather. Jesus, I'm thinking one thing, I'm saying another thing. So we're going to have so here there's a couple of CSS properties we can actually use to divide this footer section. And then one of the things I would like for us to do, we can just use a grid container. And then maybe when I use a grid container now during the next class, we can just start by talking about the grid container. So yeah, so let's give let's create a new container inside of our list and call it a grid container. Yeah, we call it a grid container, and then we are just going to have several items. So we are going to have div.grid item. We are going to have about them. Let's just have a couple of them. 1, 2, 3, and we have how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one is going to be the footer logo. And maybe I won't finish it because I'm so certain that everyone is tired now. So I'll just say links 1, and I'll do it up to this point. So watch the video and just kind of finish it up by yourself. Links 3. So we have 3 columns of links here. Hello, if you are still on this call, please can you just say hi at this point in time? We are already rounding up.
Hi.
I just want to be able to help you divide this. I want to be able to divide this stuff for you. You get this? You get the point? I want to divide this so that you can be able to place the footer side by side by yourself and on your own. So we are not doing so much again. So let me get rid of this height and let me convert this height to a padding. So a padding of 80 pixels, top and bottom. Then a padding of 100 pixels left and right. Let's just see what that would look like. So, yeah, that looks very small, but it's fine. So what we can do now is for our grid container, which is this container, yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to give it a display of grid. And grid is actually, you know, the idea of grid is actually the idea you see on checkers. I don't know if you play checkers or draft, depending on what you called it when you were growing up. I used to call it draft when I was growing up. So it's just to create a big box and small boxes inside the big box. That thing that old men play under the tree, drafts. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So we give it a display of grid, and then grid, you want it to have a template. So we have templates in the dimension of rows and columns. So what we are doing here is when we do display of grid, nothing necessarily happens, but where it gets interesting is where we do grid template columns, this one. Then we now do, I'll just do, for instance, I'll do repeat one, sorry, we repeat how many things. We have 4 items actually that we want, 4 rows that I want to create. I want to repeat 3 FR amongst all of them. So let's see what that looks like. So you can see now that we have, you know, we have them side by side like this, and side by side in a very ugly manner. So the grid container, we are going to give it a gap, which is the gap between each grid item of, like, let's say 30 pixels. And that's going to create the spacing between them. So we are going to, okay, so that's pretty much it. So the first item we want to have here is our footer logo, which is going to be our IMG. And our IMG is going to be coding the directory and it's going to be looking for the logo. Where's the logo? The logo, Jesus. The logo should be somewhere around it. So this is the logo of SVG. So yeah, logo here. So you can see that our logo is actually here now. Then the second thing we want to do, we just want to do a couple of ULLI. So I'll just use a shorthand property, UL-li times maybe like 5. So I'll just say link 1, and then you can just, you know, let me just get it about this one. So let me just copy this over a couple of times. Shift and Alt, then down, copies it a couple of times extra. So let's go back here and, you know, we see what we have here now. We have something that looks very promising, or maybe not entirely promising, but it's good promising. Okay, sorry, our padding here is PX. I just noticed that the padding is not being applied, but I didn't want to bother myself. So we have the padding now, 80 here, you know, just like that. So for now, we can do you know, we can do a whole lot of things now. You know, as a matter of fact, we can even create you know, we can create blank, you know, blank grid items, or we can give our footer a, you know, the way we can share the grid item, instead of using this repeat, you can actually use a simple shorthand property, because, you know, you have 4 items. You can give the, and this FR actually stands for fraction. So you have a width and you want each item to take a fraction of the width. So you can do for the logo, because it looks as if it has more space it contains. So you can do 4 FR for the logo. And for each link, you just do 2 FR, 2 FR, 2 FR. So just like dividing the space between all of them. So just something like this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's that. So if I inspect this now, so you can see now, wow, okay, I think we need to make our footer wrapper, our grid container, take 100%. So 100% of what we have going on underneath there. So width 100%, or we can do a width of, let's say 80%, yeah, and then do a margin top and bottom, margin of 0 top and bottom, auto left and right, just to push it in the middle. Yeah, so we have something like this now, and you can reduce this first one, instead of 4FR to 3FR, so it's still one and the same. So it's just more like you know, that's just how you divide this particular, you know, portion of the screen. And let me just make this one bigger a little bit, so for you to see what I'm talking about. You know, that's how you divide this particular portion, you know, the way it is being divided now. just something like this. So you give this one a larger space, then this one is having, you know, a smaller space, and then that's how we arrive at something like this. You know, just have your blog, our logo, and then, you know, sharing the space between each and every one of the children. So you can do that. So I think I should stop here, guys. You guys should be able to finish it from here. So this is just a
I
ULL.
want to ask one question.
Okay.
All right, I see that the space between the products, there's a margin between the product and the item listed.
Okay. So what you can do is, like, we have a grid item here, so you can easily do something like this. You can put an H6, for instance, and then just write your product. You get. Then you can give your H6 a margin button. Style margin button. Maybe of 20 pixels or whatever you see fit. So that should do the trick for you. You can see it. So, you know, UL automatically comes with this ugly, you know, ugly list style and so on. So you can remove the list style and remove the default pattern. So
Yes.
style.
No.
No, yeah. So just like that. So you have you're almost close to that. Then you can set your color to the color you want, white. So you're, and this is width, not white. So you guys get that. So I think from this point, you guys should even be able to finish this project. So do the project from top to bottom. I'm so tired. My back is aching me. And my head is not even connecting with my fingers at this point. I need to rest so that I can wake up early to do some other things. So thank you, guys. So it makes sense. So if you're able to finish this stuff by yourself, during the next class, we just try to do the mobile responsiveness as well as some other theoretical things. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So it makes sense. This is the product you are trying to build. And definitely, when you're done with the product, you definitely have to look at it again. Touch on the UI. Okay, for instance, I have a problem with this button. It looks too, like the padding, I feel it needs more padding. It just looks too thin, you get. So those are the things you look at eventually when you're done with the project. You just want to look at it again. Okay, there's always something to add. There's always something to add. So that's just it basically. And then the font thing as well, we need to look at the font to make sure our font is consistent with, you know, what we have here. So all of those things are the things you know, put in perspective while you're trying to then spacing as such, you know, spacing here, spacing there. So you need to look at all of those other things as well. So, but that's it basically. So yeah, you see we have some margin here, but our own is still kind of squashed together. So we have to deal with all of those stuff. You get. So that's what they call UI cleanup basically. When you clean your house, initially you have industrial cleaners come and, you know, touch on everything. So that's UI cleanup for you in you know, web development. So that's it. So I think the overall framework is already laid, and I think one of us was able to do it up to this point in during their own assignment. So I think we can now complete it now. It's still very basic and simple. So we use flex here. You can also use, we use grid here, and I wanted to tell you introduce you guys to the idea of CSS grid. We also have flex boxes. So that's just it basically. So thank you very much, guys. You can reduce the spacing here. It boils down to this CSS property of you know, the FR rising. You can also decide to use 2FR to use the same dimension across all of them. So that still works fine. You get. So that's it, guys. Well done. And then good night.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So let me see the
Okay,
people
sir.
that
No.
is on the phone. Yeah, good night.